Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me for yet another episode of Greyhound TV ONTrigger. I think we have sort of, over the course of years, we have developed a penchant for getting you some very interesting personalities from the world of technology. Last time we had somebody who started his career from the US Army and now is part of the technology world. And this time around, we've got somebody who started his career from the construction world and today is heading up a very interesting product portfolio at Airtel. Abhishek, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sanchit. Pleasure being here.
So tell me what happened, construction to CPaaS and products, quite the journey, right? Tell me about yourself. How did it start and from where to where and how, really?
So it's what every young engineer does, right? When you try and look for your first job, you always wanted to be in the domain that you did engineering. So I did civil engineering,
Right.
and construction was the domain that was interesting, and I was fascinated by it. I was fascinated at looking at how can you use technology to actually create something physical.
Right.
And that's what I spent a good 2.5 years there, right? And worked on some very interesting projects.
Interesting.
I think from construction to anything technology is always been an ambition. I think
Right.
that's what really see for me. Innovation is about building something new when you have constraints.
Right.
That's
Wonderfully
when you
said. Very well said. Yeah.
truly innovate, right? And I think product management is all about that. So I've always felt that this is a place where I can get to innovate the most.
Interesting. And you also spent some time with Trippillers and Housing.com, again, two very interesting brands at their time. No more very relevant, I would say, but at their peak, they were really quite the talk of the town. So what was your experience like with working on the other side of the world, which is the startup world? And sort of what were the key lessons it taught you in your life?
Well, so I think every one of my those stints have been super interesting, whether it's in travel with Trippillers or real estate at housing. I think the core of my ambition always has been to solve a problem and try and solve one of the more nuanced problems, or look at how you can truly disrupt. Uh, startups as a DNA do that, right? That's what they. The ambition is to disrupt. The ability is to be faster than time. The culture is about getting a few set of people together to really create great things, right? So I think that's what I like doing at heart. And you may be surprised, but at Airtel, we're actually pretty much that culture.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're not a telco guy, but the fact that you come from a non-telco background, especially startups, I think it's a breather, right? Because once you're in a telco, which lives and breathes telco for the last 30, 40 years, it's hard to be the tech guy there, right? So how's that journey been for you?
Actually, it's been very easy. I'll be very honest. I was a little anxious when I was coming in with the exact same point, saying I've come from the startup world. I'm going to one of the largest telcos in the country, which is a company of 25 years. My total experience was not 25 years by then, right? And multiple younger organizations. Most of it were as old as my experience there, right? So the sum total of my previous experience was what I was. I mean, not really, but yeah, mostly was smaller than telco, right? So that was what I was anxious about. But the ability of the company to innovate, to be open to challenging the way we do business, and really looking at customer experience, how can we help that, is the core of the organization, right? Every time you want to do something there, you get support. And the entire digital family, and when I joined Airtel, we were 5 folks at the product team, right? That's when I joined, right? And today we are a large team, and none of them feel that we are a company where they're not innovating.
Excellent.
And it's 5 to 100, right? I'm not talking about 5 has become 10. 5 has grown over 100.
So now, if I understand correctly, that you're part of Airtel Digital, and of course you lead Airtel IQ, and this session is about Airtel IQ. We'll talk about that. But for a minute, very interesting journey, 5 to 100. Give us a sense of what Airtel Digital looks like today, both from a structure perspective in terms of, let's say, some horizontals that you may have or some verticals you may have. Give us a sense of how the business is organized. What are some of the key product areas that you're looking after as a business in totality? And then we'll sort of come to Airtel IQ eventually, of course.
Right. So I think there's a premise that Airtel Digital is built around, right? If you look at Airtel as a telco, through providing telecom services in both B2C and B2B worlds, we built 4 pillars or 4 tenets of strength. They were data, distribution, payments, and the telecom network.
Right.
So we built these 4 strengths, which are really the core of our business, right? As telecom. Telecom builds propositions around these 4 pillars and sells it to market, which is what we call mobility, broadband, DTH, or B2B business.
Right.
Airtel Digital was tasked with, can you use these 4 strengths and build adjacencies?
Wonderful.
To telecom, right? So that you really unlock the true value of the assets that you've created over the last 25 years. And if you look at the various businesses we have, which is our entertainment business of Wink and Extreme, our financial business with a payments bank, or with the lending business we have, our advertising business, which is built, and lastly, our Airtel IQ business, all of them use one strength or the other. For example, the Airtel IQ business uses network as a strength and data as a strength. Ads uses data and distribution as a strength.
Right.
Financial services uses payments and data as a strength. Wink Extreme uses distribution and payments as a strength. Right. So we've essentially built everything around these 4 pillars, and that's where we see scale, we see profitability, and we see true adjacencies coming to light. Right. So it's high ROI as a business.
Interesting. And I think the fact that you've spent time for the Airtel Black product as well, I think that sort of adds a lot of richness to what you're doing. But let's come to the chase. We've spent 10 odd minutes speaking about you and Airtel Digital, but let's talk about what we're here for, which is Airtel IQ. Now, give us a first 30,000 view about what Airtel IQ is, what's the value proposition, and within Airtel IQ, what are some of the product groups that you're sort of pushing to the market?
So Airtel IQ is a network-enabled CPaaS platform, right? We are essentially the only telco globally to have built an in-house CPaaS platform. And CPaaS essentially is communications platform as a service, which gives the ability to enterprises to create programmable communication. Right? To keep it very simple, we give the ability for any enterprise to design their customer experience using our telecom network. So we've essentially broken our telecom network down, or simplified our telecom network down to a set of APIs that any enterprise can integrate with and get a telco grade product working for them. Right? So they're essentially customizing a telco for themselves.
Excellent.
Right? So that's what we've done, and it's natural, right, for a telco to extend this to enterprises. If you look at the product families that we support, we have voice, of course, when we give customers the ability to manipulate or program voice the way they want. Right? Similarly for messaging, and both of these are essentially telco grade products, right? So you're getting a manufacturer product for yourself. The other pillar or product family we recognized using data and communication was, how can we support customer experience? So we went to the extent of building, partnering a whole contact center suite. Right? So any enterprise can today either take a full-fledged contact center suite or can program their messaging and voice interactions. on their own. So IQ is actually a very simple layer on top of a telco that exposes these capabilities.
Interesting. So you've got voice, you've got messaging and auth, and you've got the CX part, which is the contact center part, right? But even before we get to sort of the nitty-gritties of each of these, how come the name Airtel IQ? It's very interesting. How did you land on that?
So IQ is, it sort of talks about how do you make intelligence, or how do you do intelligent conversations. So Airtel, which is a telecom company, is becoming intelligent for you.
Okay.
So that's how this name came up.
Very interesting. Now, for Airtel, of course, voice is a huge strength. Okay. And I think it's easy to find customers and sort of develop on existing relationships. Now, what I'd love for you to sort of, walk me through is the maturity and the increase in level of sophistication within voice that you've done in terms of productization to essentially help, let's say, organizations customize their experience with you.
Correct. So I think, see, for voice, there are two big pillars, right? One is the ability to write a workflow on what happens if this customer calls me, or what happens when I call this customer, saying who can call whom, where should this call be routed, how can I hunt a number saying if person A doesn't pick up, person B would pick up, how can I build some amount of privacy for both the numbers by sharing a mask number, right? So there is this whole piece on voice. The second piece on voice is how do I increase the pickup rate of voice?
Interesting.
Which is, what is a number I should show the customer so the pickup rate goes up or down?
Yeah.
These are only two problems that you actually need to solve in voice. What we did, and we did this very easily. Why? Because our voice network today supports 350 million own customers and 750 million customers in India.
Yeah.
Right? That keep calling one another.
That's right. Yeah.
All we had to do was slice a part of that technology and bring it out. Right? Because that is what the technology is doing. It's allowing person A to call person B.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right? And it's allowing you to play something. It's allowing you to play an IVR. It's allowing you to choose a display number.
Right.
Right? So we took that up. Couple of innovations. We were the first to bring out mobile number in a application-based calling, right? Which enhanced pickup rates by about 25-30%. So if you look at your own phone today, majority of the missed calls are from landline numbers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right. It's because it's playing to your psyche of a landline number is possibly calling me for a promotion, but a mobile number is a friend that or a girlfriend that I would like to talk to and I don't have the number of, right?
We are past the age of girlfriends, Abhishek.
We all wish that somebody calls us, right? So a number really gives you that value, right? The second thing we did was to build further trust, right? In the call, we can actually print the name of the organization instead of the number. Right. So instead, even if you don't have my number saved, it could say Biswal calling on your phone. And we can do this at the network layer itself.
Interesting.
Both these products really significantly lift the call pickup, right? And if you go back to the core tenet of what an enterprise wants, is it wants to connect to its customers.
Yeah, that's right.
Through the right medium in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's right. This is a large area, and there are a lot of gray areas as well in terms of privacy and TRAI regulation. We'll not go to that. But I think for the context of this conversation, these two facets that you spoke about, interesting, very fascinating, and sort of resonates with me that it's the natural go-to point for Airtel. But exemplify this for us. Let's say, give us a couple of examples to make these two facets of the voice portfolio real for us.
So I'll give you two examples. Yeah. There is a bank collections contact center. Yeah. This collections contact center wants to talk to a lot of customers, right? And help them or remind them to sort of pay. What we did was we built efficiency into a contact center, where through a combination of mobile numbers, CNAM, the ability to use data to find out when is the right time to call a customer, right? Send a message when you've missed a call, show them a reminder on WhatsApp, is what we all brought together in an omni-channel environment.
Is it live right now? This what you're
Yeah,
talking
this is live. This is live.
about? Oh, wonderful.
I'm
Okay.
talking about an actual customer, right?
Yeah.
I'm not taking the name of the customer, but this is
Sure.
a leading bank in India,
Sure.
right? They saw their collections jump up by 15%.
Very interesting.
Just through efficiency on this voice calling product.
Very interesting.
Right? And it was a big win because the bank could collect better. The customers were happy because they were able to connect with the call better, right? As against spam. So if it's your bank calling you, right, and you see the name of your bank, you do know that this is something important, and I would like this call up, right? And we built this on the whole context of we will never spam a customer, right? We will, because remember, it's our customer on the other end as well, right?
It's true.
So we need to balance it between the enterprise as well as the customer. And just coming back to the piece on how can we build enough prudence,
right,
so that we do right for both of our customers. We actually have that responsibility. Right? So our checker of B2C does not allow any maker in B2B to do something.
Beautiful. Excellent.
Which is not right. So I think that's the balance that we bring, right? Another example was we wanted to build privacy for the drivers of a logistics company, right? So we built something which is in-time call masking.
Okay.
So essentially, when the rider is around your location, now the delivery location is when his call lights up.
Right.
So if a customer is trying to reach the rider saying, where is my delivery? If the rider is not close, the customer actually gets a message saying the driver is on their way. But when they're about 100 meters close to your house, you actually get to speak to the driver.
Very interesting.
So that's when, we used network location with voice to figure out how to bring these two together.
Network location is easy for you, right? It's your bread and butter virtually, right? Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, tell me one thing. It's a beautiful examples that you just shared. How do you sort of take these examples across industries? What are some of these key industries that you're going after? Because the applicability of something like this is very, very wide, but I'm sure you're having to pick and choose your battles in terms of where do you go after. Give us a sense of what are these key industries you're going after, especially just for voice, because these are two beautiful products. And what are some of the wins you've had with some customers?
Yeah. So I think if I look at, so I divide voice into three parts. One is incoming voice, which is typically for contact centers and customer experience. I think there we are pretty much across. We are one of the larger voice companies in the country, right? And we've really innovated for all incoming solutions, and we've really helped customers provide an omni-channel experience, right? So you want voice falling off to a message or falling off to WhatsApp. Those are products that we have, right? So that's one family. The second family is outbound customer connect or customer sales or collections, right? So there we've gone to large partners in edtech, large partners in e-commerce, right? And essentially a lot of the D2C sort of companies, right? The last piece on voice is the last mile logistics delivery sort of product line, which is primarily around privacy, contactability, etc. Which is, we probably carry more than 50% of food delivery today.
Interesting.
Right. We carry about 30-35% of last mile e-com delivery in the country, right? So those are verticals that have done very well, and for us. And the good part, Sanchit, is that a lot of these were existing customers of the telco, right?
Yeah, makes
we
sense.
got distribution very easily.
Yeah. I understand. Now, let's sort of go a little across to the messaging and sort of conversation, because you mentioned about WhatsApp, and I know you have a very large partnership with WhatsApp. Now, the entire conversation about WhatsApp automation, bots, is a very significant part of the CX conversation today, irrespective of whoever you go to. Now, there are two facets I want to talk to you about. One is that, the traditional customer for a telco like an Airtel has not been the necessarily the CIO always, okay, or hasn't been the CMO literally, right? But for a lot of these WhatsApp bot conversations, automation, these are new buyers, your CMO buyers, sales head buyers. So one, what's your approach and entrenchment with WhatsApp service in terms of that partnership, if we can talk about? And second, on the back of that, how are you sort of working with some of the new age tech buyers, which aren't necessarily the traditional telco buyer per se?
Got it. So I'll take your second question first, right? You're absolutely right. Our footprint in the B2B world was heavily with the CIOs or maybe the purchase managers.
Purchase managers, yeah.
Because we were infrastructure providers, right? A lot of the companies look at us before the office is even set up.
Correct.
Can we have the infrastructure in place? Yeah. Right? And so I think of late, especially with products around IQ, products around advertising, we've started looking at two new CXOs, right? One is around product customer experience, right? And the second is around marketing customer acquisition.
Yeah.
Right. So we are proud to say that we've added the CMO and the CPO also,
right,
to our list of key decision makers, right? And I think most of our deals now on IQ are actually with our CMOs or the experience officers.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
It's also about now almost co-creating the experience with the CMO or the CPO, right? And I think here, Sanchit, frankly, what really helped is our product org development, right? I had the fortune of doing that for 3 years in Airtel, right? So I've literally seen how a large company has transformed. Right? And today, most of my conversations are sharing those learnings.
Interesting.
And in the end, I leave this conversation saying, by the way, if you get Airtel IQ, you can also piggyback on all of this, right? So I think those are conversations I've really enjoyed.
Interesting.
I think on WhatsApp.
Sorry, before we go to WhatsApp, you spoke about deals and CMOs. How, let's say, a CMO would like to structure a deal is very different to how a procurement manager or a CIO would like to structure a deal. CMOs are all about tangible business outcome data. Now, two things on the back of that. One, what is the typical deal size you look at from a filtration perspective? And why is this question important? Because a lot of people who'll be listening to this video will want to know what that is. Does Airtel cost an arm and a leg for us to sort of onboard? One is that. So if you could help us with if not a figure, range. Second of all, from a deal structuring perspective, what's the breakup between, let's say, direct outcome-based deals on, let's say, outcome component of a certain deal? Give us a sense on that, please.
All right. So I think, so Sanchit, we are a SaaS product, right? So we are a entirely usage-based product. So we believe the deal size is always the ability of the enterprise and never us. Okay. So we don't have a min deal size. Right? We are a platform provider. We have APIs that we've built. We price and charge you on consumption. So once you integrate, you could pay us as low as a couple of lakhs a month to as high as a couple of crores a month. Right? And it's primarily based on your usage. Typically, our deal sizes are directly proportional to the size of customers the enterprise addresses. So if you go to a large e-commerce player, they may have millions of customers to service. If you go to a real estate broker, they may only have 500 customers to service, right? So for us, that is never that's never a filter. Right? course, we incentivize customers to use us as much as they can. So
Of course.
we've laddered pricing and all that, right? So that's something that we don't typically worry about. Such as on the usage of channels, we have both kinds of customers. We have some customers who only use us for our voice services or our messaging services. Most customers use us for all their channels.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have a good, healthy, not equal, but nearly equal mix across channels in terms of our revenue share.
Interesting. You spoke your full SaaS, which is wonderful, but you're not really behaving like a full SaaS. I'll tell you where I'm coming from, and this is, I understand I'm probably being a little critical about you right now. Don't mind, don't take it personally. But the idea is that for the health of any SaaS business model, it ought to be self-consumed, self-bought, self-purchased, implemented, of course, by a pool of engineers at the back end. But ultimately, let's take the example of Freshworks, for example, or any of these classic SaaS companies, which are consumed by yourself, virtually. I don't see that with Airtel right now. You're not part of actively available from a marketplace as such, even on your own website, by the way, which I was reviewing before this conversation. The pricing isn't mentioned. There is no way I can sort of, as a small customer, go and buy. It's a very people-led sales model still, which sort of stinks of telco. How do you change that from here?
So I think, Sanchit, it's a very it's a right observation, right? And I think you've hit it on the head in terms of our choice of GTM today.
Yeah.
So I think we are a very young company.
Mm-hmm.
We are less than 18 months old.
Sure.
Yeah. And one of the decisions we made early on was, where do we invest? And we prioritized investment on core and platform, and did not invest as much as we wanted to on our UX as well as self-serve platform, right? Which led to the decision of how we'll go to market. And it was also looking at our segments, right? So we also chose our enterprise segment, which is a top 5,000 companies in the country, over, let's say, our SMB segment, which is about 1 million customers, right? So we made that choice particularly because the enterprises today want to or our enterprise segment, right? The companies that fit there, they want to design their own customer experience end to end.
Sure.
Right? As against a lot of the SMBs who would like a pre-created experience that they could select out of.
Sure.
Right? So that's a choice that we made, saying we will try and do the enterprise segment.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that,
mm-hmm.
this year, over the last 12 months, we've invested significantly in building out a self-serve capability.
Mm-hmm.
And we would be launching that soon. But we prioritize going after big money, and
Sure.
I'm no shame in accepting it.
But at some stage, I'll tell you from experience, decoupling sales from SaaS is very critical from the success of SaaS as a business model. One is that. Second of all, I think the base of customers you're going after, which is, let's say, these e-com and delivery partners and all of that, a very engineering-led mindset of a company. They prefer to, let's say, download a Hadoop, they download a Redis open source and really architect from there. Now, if you really are serious about developing the DevOps motion and getting people to use your APIs actively as part of that, I think it's very critical as an ask that you sort of allow for self-serve, because I think that's where the explosion will come from a user-based perspective. But, quickly moving on, this is not meant to be a critique session, but just a observation session. But moving on, talk to me about the support. I'll tell you why. Again, and sorry, we'll come back to WhatsApp. That's a conversation that's pending. But, Airtel does a fantastic job at L0 and L1, but necessarily hasn't done equally well in L2 and L3 support. How do you, as you sort of build out Airtel IQ, how do you sort of, enable your support teams to be able to actively offer L2 and L3 at a cost which is not prohibitive? One. Second, it's readily available across enterprises and sort of becomes a easy to go to from a support perspective.
Right, right. No, I think very, very, very valid point. It's also linked to the fact that most of our users, not consumers, but users are actually the engineering teams of these
Yeah.
organizations, right? So I think what we've done, Sanchit, is we've significantly invested in the platform itself, right? Change management today is federated. So all our customers know about our change management. They have live sessions that they can attend to figure out what we've changed. We do a lot of advocacy around telco changes so that they can use our APIs the best, right? We have a very large team at our knock and keep looking and monitoring our set of
Okay.
uh, products and services. And so the reason why we've done well
Yeah.
is
Sure.
we came from a telco mindset
Yep.
where the telco services need to work like electricity and water.
Of course. Yes.
Your
Absolutely.
expectation is they don't go down.
Yep.
Yeah. Uh, the advantage that we brought in was when we forked out that network and
hmm
offered a slice of it,
hmm
we were better than everyone else in the market because they were all building another hop on top of us.
That's right. Yep.
Right. So every time a telco goes down, all hell breaks loose to fix it. So one of the things we had to do was we had to abstract out telco knowledge,
hmm
make it more consumable by the digital engineers in the country.
That's what.
Right?
Yep.
Remember, I spent the last 3 years doing this at a telco. So we've literally taken all our Airtel digital learnings of digitizing a telco, making it simple for people like you and me to use, build into Airtel IQ.
Interesting.
And our ambition is, Sanjit, someone who's not an engineer will at some point of time define the workflow of voice
hmm
and use them for their company's experience. That's our ambition.
Like a low code, no code approach,
Yes,
virtually. Okay.
absolutely.
Very
That's
interesting.
something that you'll see very soon coming out from us.
I'd love that. I'll tell you why, because again, I'll sort of, quickly go back to what we spoke, but, self-serve is probably the underpinning of success of, let's say, business models like Automatic, which powers WordPress and the others. Community-based support is essentially what fuels that engine, from a growth perspective. So nonetheless, let's circle back on WhatsApp, a very interesting partnership. What's been the success of that partnership? One, how are you sort of developing on top of the product? What's the direction? What's the roadmap? What are the early wins currently?
Awesome. So I think WhatsApp was a very interesting partnership for us, right? And this was primarily because we were trying to understand our own customer. If you look at our customer or the bulk of our customer today, it is the younger professional as well as the youth, right? Uh, the customer today it loves multitasking. The customer today is trigger happy. The customer wants to make a quick decision, hence needs a UX that is simple, easy to
Yep.
comprehend, and to tap a decision, right? Rather than talk to somebody on the phone, right? What this did was it made us realize that voice as a product now has competition where you may not need a person to talk to, right? When you're in a meeting and you want to make a decision, you want to chat or WhatsApp.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? When you're traveling, you don't want to talk on the phone because it does disturb the person next door,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
So chat or conversation on message actually has become a very large pillar in communication today.
That is so true. Yeah.
And we felt it's natural for a CPaaS platform
hmm
to offer that, right? Because we've always been we've externalized strengths always saying, we have voice, let's take it out. We have messaging, let's take that out, right? I think for us, WhatsApp was natural.
hmm hmm
It's almost completing our omni-channel suite.
Of course.
And,
Yes. Yeah.
and as customers shift from traditional messaging and voice to chat, we wanted to be there,
Yeah. Makes sense.
right? And and on this, Sanjit, I'll also share what we've done, and it's very interesting.
Please.
Most BSPs of Meta, which
hmm
are essentially people who build things on top of WhatsApp, have tried to build bots on their own.
Yeah.
Right? We took a very different approach. We went back to our platform approach, saying we will build very vanilla products on WhatsApp, and we will open up WhatsApp for the ISVs of the country to build on top of.
Very interesting. Okay.
Right? We actually launched the hackathon product a couple of months ago. And you'll be surprised, we have about 10,000 people who started working on that hackathon.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting.
I have an army of entrepreneurs today, right, building customer first use cases.
Very interesting. Okay.
Right. And all we have to do is offer support, help them, fund them if required, give them GTM required, right? Eventually, this whole community will come together and build something that is very powerful.
Give us some examples, contextualize this for us, make it real for us.
Imagine an edtech organization, right? An edtech company today wants to communicate to its students, right? A lot of conversations are around classes reschedule or signing up for a class. Imagine calling a student, telling them about, hi, Abhishek, you had enrolled for with a class with me. Can we reschedule that to tomorrow, 4 p.m.? And I would say, I don't know. Okay, 4 does not look likely. Can I do it 5? And then the person says, no, not 5. Can I do it at 6? Right? So this is a conversation that you're having, right? Imagine a bot tells you, hi, Abhishek, your class is cancelled for today, right? Because the trainer is not available. These are the following slots that you can tap and select and reschedule. Right? It's a small bot.
Yeah.
That allows me to make this decision and avoid the conversation altogether.
Yeah.
This is a bot that 2 very young engineers in Bombay built.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So and the point was, today for me or my team to go to various education institutes to find this out is something that would have taken more time than it is taking today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think in return, Sanchit, if we can create 100, 200, 500 entrepreneurs building things and doing well, we would have served a purpose in the country.
So tell me, interesting, this is a very fascinating conversation where this is headed to. So let's say, how will this be these beautiful applications that you spoke about be ultimately consumed? They can't be sold by the army of sellers that Airtel has, right? Are they going to be available to buy from a marketplace? How do I, as a user, consume? Because it's impossible for any seller to be remembering 200 products, right?
Absolutely. So we are actually, as we finish the hackathon, right, towards the end of the year, we would also launch a marketplace portal where all of these will be listed with support, with lead management, with L1 support from Airtel, with GTM support from Airtel.
Wonderful.
The ability for our sales team to fix communication between the entrepreneur and the enterprise, for the entrepreneur to be set up so that they can go build or customize their product, for Airtel to collect money and make sure the entrepreneurs make money, right? So we built an entire ISP program around providing infrastructure to these young companies, providing GTM support to these young companies, and also providing the ability to collect money, to keep their product running, to provide first support, right? So I think this entire thing, Sanchit, has really created, it's really exciting. It's created a lot of excitement in our organization. And every time I talk to a customer, they truly enjoy this because they don't want to be limited to what I can do for them.
Sure, absolutely. Understood. Yeah.
And this is a philosophy, Sanchit, that the entire Airtel IQ product will move towards. And we would like companies to keep coming to us, telling us what they need, which would go back to our pool of entrepreneurs and ISVs, and we get value back. So I think that is the ecosystem that we want to create.
It's a very new Airtel, I have to be honest. I remember speaking to Airtel over the last 5-10 years. I've been speaking to Airtel for, I don't know, donkeys now, and this entire motion around DevOps and developers and has been in this has been the speaking for a while. I think action is only sort of palpable now, as they say, right? So, but very very interesting. Let's say, but in terms of use cases, which are a little more mature and a little more enterprise grade from that perspective, how do you sort of work? Let's take the example of, let's say, hospitality. Ultimately, while a bot can help you sort of solve basic asks, ultimately there has to be a human at the end of the channel, which sort of also speaks to the person. Now, how are you sort of, let's say, perfecting or trying to perfect the handshake between the human agent and the bot agent, which wants to, let's say, a hospitality firm wants to work on a WhatsApp? How do you sort of work that situation?
So I'll tell you one very interesting thing that stitches all of this together.
Mm-hmm.
The stitch is the telephone number.
Okay.
A lot of times we now know people only by their telephone number. Right? The only way for me to reach you is now your telephone number that I tap on my phone. Right? What we've literally done is behind the telephone number, you now have a person that you could talk to,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a bot that you can chat to.
Right.
Movement between these two channels is automated.
Okay.
So if you let's say call me
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not available, you may actually get a WhatsApp back from me saying, "Hi Sanchit, I missed your call. You mind leaving me a message?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Assume I didn't type this, the bot did.
Sure.
You would reply.
Sure.
Yeah. And I now have context before I return your call.
Sure. Sure.
Or you can even schedule saying, "Can you call me back at 5?" Yeah. So the interplay between bot, human, voice, chat is what we are actually talking about. And that's also one of the biggest pillars of this partnership.
Okay.
Saying as a telco, because we are provider of the number, voice sits on top of the number. WhatsApp also sits on top of the number. Because when you're doing a peer-to-peer WhatsApp chat, it's actually anchored around the phone number. So it's natural for us to provide all services around that number.
But is that true for, let's say, a bot for a company? Because I tell you, because you don't know, I don't know the number for a lot of these companies who have bots on WhatsApp, and they message me, and I speak to the bot on WhatsApp, but there's no number as such which is attached to that, really.
Actually, so WhatsApp always has a number that's
Sure,
attached
but
to
it's not known to me as a customer. So I'm just trying to tell you that
Yes.
while for a large portion that may well be true, but as brands start establishing their official presence on WhatsApp, the entire thought process around number may be very redundant from that perspective.
Absolutely. So every number that you've saved, that's true, right? What WhatsApp does is for people who are onboarded, it actually displays the brand name.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
And the customer can make a choice whether they want to show a brand name, or the enterprise can make a choice whether they want a brand name or a number, right? So, so technically every number is a brand name and vice versa, right? What we're working on, Sanchit, and this is going to come out very soon, is even for toll free, which is 1-800 numbers, will now be on WhatsApp via Airtel.
Oh, beautiful.
Right? Because
I like
remember,
that.
we are the number manufacturer.
Sure. No,
Right. So imagine the interplay between bot, human, chat, voice is happening seamlessly on the number of your choice.
Interesting. And you've mentioned contact center a few times, and I really want to pick your brains. It's a very busy area, contact center. There are vertical specific players. There are horizontal players. It's a lot going on in that area, right? Now, what is the Airtel IQ strategy on contact center? Because you have two facets, if I understand it correctly. One is your own product, and the other part is the relationship with Genesis, right? Now, how does it really work? How does it dovetail into each other? Give us a sense.
So I think contact center, the formal contact center today, has two large pieces, right? One piece is the software, which essentially brings together the agent efficiency.
Yep. Yep.
And the second is the telco breakout,
That's right. Yeah.
which brings out the call efficiency, right? And these two bundled together is what the contact center
Yep.
need. What we've done in with Genesis is we have a product that is now fully hosted on cloud.
Okay.
Right. So we've removed the need to think about having a physical contact center.
Okay.
Your contact center actually is on the cloud, whether it's software or the network.
Yeah.
All you have to do is connect to that cloud in
Sure.
a secure manner and start your agent seat there. So and COVID taught us this, right?
Yeah.
When COVID hit, a lot of our agents couldn't get to their contact center.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
How did we overnight move to a hosted model at Airtel? Right? We were able to do that because I can now host everything on the cloud. Right? It's essentially a centralized breakout architecture where at one of the data centers you have software, you have network, you have your hardware, right? And consumption of this central architecture is a pure SaaS
Yep.
business, right? Where you pay us for a seat that you consume.
Right.
We don't mind if the seat is in the middle of Delhi or in a city far, far away from Delhi.
True. True.
Yeah. So this will bring enterprises efficiency on cost.
Yep.
This will bring enterprises efficiency and flexibility on location.
Yep.
This will bring enterprises the ability to move to a full OpEx model.
Sure.
Right? You essentially don't need to bring out cost to put up a contact center and then grow your seats, right? Please move to a pure SaaS model. Right?
Yep.
I think this business, coupled with the power of omni-channel communications with Airtel IQ, is the future of customer experience tomorrow.
Sure. Understood. Understood. So essentially, but the two components of the infrastructure, one is the infrastructure component, other is the software component. Do you have your own software component or is it full Genesis?
No, so that is where we've partnered
With Genesis.
right?
Okay.
And Genesis was our partner of choice because Genesis also is helping customers move to a cloud.
Yeah. And so Genesis is a great choice, full marks on that. But tell me, Genesis, when it chose its India go-to market, it was an AWS instance in Mumbai. Why not Airtel Cloud? Because that should be the natural choice as well, right, for Genesis?
So I think Genesis has extended what they have globally.
Okay.
Into India, and that's where I think that's their choice was AWS Mumbai. We are talking to them about figuring out how to host this alternatively. If we are not able to use or if we are not able to exploit all use cases from AWS, luckily for us, the regulation allows, as long as the software is in the country, voice and media can travel, right? So from a regulation point of view, I think it's a full tick.
Yeah, but the business model point of view is very different, right? I mean, if you have it on Airtel Cloud, it sort of becomes a lot more synergistic from that approach. Sort of economies of scale sort of comes in. Your ability to bundle, package, and discount become much higher. So I think from that perspective, Genesis being on Airtel Cloud makes a lot of sense. But, we are at the top of the hour almost. What I really want to do is to talk about a few things before we leave for the session. One is architectural modularity. Now, you see large enterprises today, they are sort of feeling the burn about getting stuck with cloud vendors because they, ultimately they get served a large bill which they don't appreciate. So one of the pitfalls of SaaS is that, right? Now, how do you, as you sort of work your way with developers, extend your DevOps environment, get the marketplace to come in, how do you sort of the same breath ensure the architectural modularity stays and the APIs are not sort of restrictive from a data movement, data calls perspective, which makes it really worthy of a customer's time?
So I think so two parts, right? We architecturally are very modular, and the reason we had to do this was scale.
Mm.
Right? Uh, on a over the festive season, we could be sending out a couple of billion messages, yeah, and during another season we could be sending out less than a billion, right? So it
Sure.
could range from, it could go 10x
Mm. Mm. Mm.
in a festive season, right? And the way our systems are built is at scale. They can extend modularly and linearly, right? And the way that we extend our technologies, we also bring down cost as we scale further, right? And we learn this being a telco,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because irrespective of who actually sells the minute, I always have to carry it.
Yeah, sure. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
So I think for us, one of the values that customers get from us is our significant scale.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this scale, otherwise, our cost is always very reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The second is we actually provide very simplistic open APIs for all our products, and we don't insist on a method of usage.
Interesting. Okay.
So developers can curate their own experiences using Airtel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important because we actually want real last mile innovation to be done by the developer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I think, Sanchit, this is where we learned a lot doing the enterprise business first, because there we worked with developers directly. We had talked to CTOs directly, right? As against giving out a self-serve product
Mm.
where we would have to only use analytics to see how many people come in and not use our product, right? So,
Sure.
so it gave us a lot of learnings.
Sure.
The easiest way for us to test our self-serve was empowering our team with the self-serve of tomorrow. So they're
Mm.
literally talking to customers on the phone and trying to do things for them
Interesting.
on a low-code platform,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah.
It gave us several months of testing
Interesting.
internally, right? So we took that approach,
No, fine.
and this also will give you some confidence that we are close to launch.
That was my next question. Last 2-3 minutes, give us a sense of what's coming up for Airtel IQ in 2023. 4-5 points, please.
So I think H1 is where we are looking at launching a lot of prepaid products. So
Okay.
we've mostly been postpaid. It's all pay as you go. So we're looking at creating sachets of our product. So that's something that we're working on. I think a lot of the self-serve ecosystem will also light up between H1 and H2. Mostly in Q3 it'll light up, right? And we will also extend now our focus towards the SMB segment.
Okay.
Yeah. Our marketplace for ISVs
Mm-hmm.
will
Mm-hmm.
start extending from WhatsApp today to maybe other channels.
Right. Right.
And that's so these are two large areas or streams of work that we're going to scale. We of course will keep innovating on the telco layer, right? And we have some very interesting products. One product I can share, which is going to come up in Q4, is fallback mechanisms for messaging and calls. So let's say if you want to reach out to a customer and they're not, and you find them not latched on to the telco network, but they're on Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
So you move from an SMS not delivered or a call not reachable to WhatsApp,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Think of you are on international roaming, right? And you a lot of times you want to try and get an OTP, or you want to try and get a message,
Yeah, it's a hard
or
one.
your bank wants to call you
Yeah.
and they're not able to reach you, right? So
That's
some
true.
of those things are very interesting. So we will try and figure those out, and we'll try and experiment those.
Wonderful. Sounds like a plan. Abhishek, thank you very much for your time. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I wish you the very best for 2023. And I'm sure we'll speak again on Airtel IQ and other things at Airtel.
Absolutely, Sanchit. No, thank you. Pleasure being here. I think you posted a lot of tough questions, and I did justice to them.
So sorry about that. That's just part of who I am. But thanks once again, Abhishek. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you.